This one right here, 4, 5, and 6. This is going to be tough. I don't know what's going on with number 4. And I didn't hear that. I heard it mentioned when he was taking his plea yesterday, but understanding what a criminal street gang is, and specifically YSL, how are we viewing that? I mean, does he kind of are we in just this massive gray area right now? Because even though Thug's out, the trial is going on, and I don't think there's been a ruling on if YSL is a criminal street gang or not. This is the official final disposition of Young Thug. Now, as we mentioned before, Young Thug did have to get processed out at Rice Street. Thank God he didn't have to stay there, because, I mean, this all could have been and gone a totally different way. But either way, here we have it in the Superior Court of Fulton County, state of Georgia. The state of Georgia versus Jeffrey Williams, aka Young Thug. The final disposition, felony with probation. Let's look at it. The court enters the following judgment. Here we go. Let's read the charges, the disposition, the sentence, the fine, and the concurrent or consecutive ruling on this. Okay, here we go. So we're going to read it straight across from left to right. The charge, conspiracy to violate the Racketeering, Influenced, and Corruption Organizations Act, the RICO Act. What did he plead? No to that one. All right. It's gone. They can't prosecute him anymore for that, which is insane. Because this whole time they were saying this guy was the only reason that they're bringing a RICO charge, and they're letting him go. This prosecution is absolute garbage, and it starts with Fannie Willis. Either way, what is he sentenced to? Obviously, 20 years to serve 5, and the balance of 15 years served in probation. This is going to be pretty much what we're going to see moving forward. He does have to pay a fine of $25,000, commute to time served. All right. And Amy already mentioned he served 2.5 years. Is he actually going to do any time? Probably not. What is the next charge? The second charge, which was count 56, unlawful for a person who occupied criminal street gang position of the organizer, supervisory, or management. Of course, no to that. 5 years to serve, backloaded. $15,000 fine there. Consecutive to count 1, backloaded. Count 57, unlawful for person employed, associated with the criminal street gang to participate in criminal activity. He pleaded guilty to that one. 20 years to serve 5 years, the balance of 15 years of probation, no fine, commute to time served. 58, violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act. That was going to be a tough one to beat. Guilty, 20 years, serve 5, balance of 15 years probation. Commute to time served. All right. And then 59, violation of the Georgia Controlled Substance Act. Going to be another tough one to beat. Guilty, 5 years to serve. Commute. Violation of the Georgia Controlled Substance Act. Guilty, 5 years to serve. Commute to time served. Possession of a firearm or knife during the commission of or attempted to commit certain felonies, which were listed here. Guilty, 5 years to serve, backloaded. Consecutive on this one to count 56, backloaded, which was the $15,000 fine, 5 years to serve. That's also backloaded. Okay, now let's go ahead and get into the details since we made it through that. Oh, we got one more. I forgot. 62. Use of a machine gun, sawed-off rifle, sawed-off shotgun, or silencer during the commission of a crime. Guilty, 10 years to serve, backloaded, consecutive. There as well to count 61, backloaded. The defendant is why? Oh man. The defendant is guilty or sentenced under the first offender or conditional discharge for the above stated offenses. The court sentences the defendant to confinement in such institution as the Commissioner of the State Department of Corrections may direct, with the period of confinement to be computed as provided by the law. And here's the summary to make it easy for everybody, and for me mostly. The defendant is sentenced for a total of 40 years. What? Lord. With the first 5 years in prison. All right, we're going to get to it. I know Miss Pineapple is asking about the backloaded. All right, here we go. So the defendant is sentenced for a total of 40 years, with the first 5 years in prison commuted to time served, followed by 15 years of probation, followed by 20 years backloaded years in prison. Upon the successful completion of the full 15 years of probation, the backloaded portion of the sentence will be commuted to time served. All right, so it just goes away. All right. And then we've got the defendant is to receive credit for time served in custody from X, and they're going to determine that at a later date. Upon service of the 5 years in prison, commuted to time served, followed by 15 years on probation, followed by 20 backloaded years in prison, and upon successful completion of the full 15 years of probation, the backloaded portion of the sentence will be commuted to time served, provided the defendant shall comply with the conditions of probation imposed by the court as a part of this sentence. So you got to keep your nose clean. All right, Thug, don't mess this up. Relax. We read these the other day. I'm still hurt by these general conditions of probation. I got to read them again. And we'll get to the special conditions specifically that apply to Young Thug. But these are wild. So I'll read through them quick since we already went through them in another video. But it still shocks me to this day. The defendant is subject to arrest for any violation of probation. If probation is revoked, the court may order incarceration. The defendant shall comply with the following general conditions of probation. 1, do not violate the criminal laws of any governmental unit, and be of general good behavior. Easy enough, right? 2, avoid injurious and vicious habits. 3, avoid persons or places of disreputable or harmful character. That could be a tough one. Number 4, report to the community supervision officer as directed, and permit the community supervision officer to visit you at home or elsewhere. Number 5, work faithfully at a sustainable employment insofar as may be possible. That's going to be pretty easy. He can work for himself. Number 6, do not change your place of abode. Move outside the jurisdiction of the court or leave Georgia without permission of the community supervision officer. If permitted to move or travel to another state, you agree to waive extradition from any jurisdiction where you may be found, and not contest any effort by any jurisdiction to return you to this state. Number 7, support your legal dependents to the best of your ability. Number 8, when directed, in the discretion of the community supervision officer, you have to A, submit to evaluations and testing relating to rehabilitation and participate in and successfully complete rehabilitative programming. B, wear a device capable of tracking location by means including electronic surveillance or global positioning satellite systems. C, complete a residential or non-residential program for substance abuse or mental health treatment, and or D, agree to the imposition of graduated sanctions as defined by law. Number 9, simple enough, make restitution as ordered by the court. And we'll get into that shortly. Fine, surcharges, or add-ons. The court assesses all fine, surcharges, or add-ons as required by the law of the state of Georgia and as applicable to offense or offenses for which the defendant has been convicted. The court orders that X, the defendant, shall pay the probation supervision fee as required by law. All right, here we go. This is the interesting part, the special conditions of probation. The defendant is advised that violation of any special condition of probation may subject the defendant to a revocation of probation, and the court may require the defendant to serve up to the balance of the sentence in confinement. Oh, Lord. Yeah, we don't want that. The defendant shall comply with all special conditions of probation as designated to the attached inventory of special conditions of probation as follows. The defendant shall remain in reporting status for the first half, so 7.5 years of his probation pursuant to OCGA 1710-1 requires notice and HRG and good cause shown. Y'all have to let me know what an HRG is. I don't know what that is. Special conditions of probation are SCP. After 48 hours, defendant shall stay away from the metro Atlanta area as defined by the U.S. Census Bureau for the first 10 years of his probation. Oh. So they banned that man from Atlanta for 10 years. Lord. Subject to the following exceptions. Okay, so it might not be that bad. The defendant is permitted to enter the metro Atlanta area to attend a wedding, a funeral, or a graduation from high school, college, or graduate school, or medical emergency of immediate family members only. Immediate family members, for the purposes of this plea, is defined as biological grandparents, biological parents, biological siblings, biological children, biological aunts and uncles, and biological first cousins. Defendant may enter the metro Atlanta area up to 24 hours prior to any event listed above and must leave the metro Atlanta area within 48 hours after such event. Well, I guess me and Thug can't have lunch anymore. That's a shame. I got to do all that driving. All right. During each year of his probation, defendant shall enter the metro Atlanta area and shall make a live anti-gang and anti-gun violence presentation 4 times a year at a grade school, middle school, boys and girls club, or similar group. The presentation may include a benefit concert. Oh, man. Yo, boys and girls club memberships are about to go through the roof, y'all. If he does a benefit concert, that's going to be crazy. I mean, that would probably be the simplest thing to do for the presentation. I mean, he's going to, yeah, that's wild. The presentations may count towards his required community service hours, which is dope. And I think that's going to be a good thing too. Kids are going to love that. During each year of his probation, defendant shall perform 100 hours of community service, light work. Defendant shall not knowingly have contact of any kind or character with any other member or associate of a criminal street gang who are not a member of the defendant's immediate family, including but not limited to each of the named individuals charged in the indictment for the Rico, with the exception of defendant's biological brother, Quantavious Greer, and Sergio Kitchens. Oh, look at him. For as long as defendant and Mr. Kitchens are contractually obligated, except as necessary for the lawful business of his musical career. So y'all know Sergio Kitchens, that's Gunna, Young Thug, and Brian Steele made sure to mention yesterday that he wanted to be able to be in contact with and work with Gunna, which is super dope. I'm looking forward to that because, man, y'all know the music is going to be crazy. And if you don't know, you're going to find out. All right, here we go. So contractually obligated, except any as necessary for the laws of business of his musical career. In the event any provision of this special condition is determined to be void or unenforceable, such determination shall not affect the sentence or the remainder of the special conditions, which shall continue to be enforced to the fullest extent permitted by law. And see Parrott versus State. Okay, yeah, we're good on that. We're just glad he's out. Defendant shall in no way promote any criminal street gang, including on any social media platform. Now, this is where YSL comes in, because is YSL a gang? We've been asking this question. It seems like for forever. Is YSL a criminal street gang? I think Judge Whitaker referred to YSL as a street game a couple of times before. Is he going to be able to keep the record label name YSL? Is he going to be able to talk about slime, use slat, blat? What's going to happen with this? This is probably the most confusing part of these special conditions. And I think this is something I'd love to hear clarified from Brian Steele, because this is going to change everything for Thug if YSL is considered a criminal street gang. My question would be, by several of the defendants pleading guilty to the Rico Act, does that mean that YSL is considered a street gang? Does the state have to prove that? Is it going to be up to his community supervision officer? I don't know. So this is going to be really interesting to see how this goes. And he says he can't promote it on any social media platform. So this is a big question mark to me. And it'll be interesting to see what Young Thug does when he first drops music. It says also, the defendant shall not utilize any hand sign, terminology, or language that promotes or represents any criminal street gang activity, directly or indirectly. So no more wiping the nose. Defendant shall not participate in any criminal street gang activity. Defendant shall not knowingly engage in any form of contact with the victims listed in the Fulton County indictment or with any member of their family or household except through legal counsel. Defendant shall have neither in his possession nor within arm's reach of his person a firearm of any sort during the time that the defendant remains under this sentence. And it shall be solely defendant's responsibility to ensure that no persons in his immediate presence is knowingly in possession of a firearm of any sort. So anytime you get in the car, you better make sure there's no firearms there. I mean, even if you're getting to an Uber with someone who's legally carrying a firearm, no good. It's just crazy. With the sole exception of being licensed law enforcement officers and licensed security personnel that comprise the defendant's personal security detail or that comprise the personal security detail of a musical artist with whom the defendant is performing. Defendant shall violate no laws of any governmental unit of the state of Georgia and other state territory or the United States. Defendant may transfer probation out of state. Defendant may retain his passport and may travel freely out of the state and outside the U.S. for defendant's lawful business of his musical career. Look at Judge Whitaker. That's a win. That's a win right there. Defendant shall submit to random drug screenings and shall abstain from the use of any drug not prescribed by a licensed physician. Defendant shall execute a Fourth Amendment waiver to permit the search of his person, residence, vehicles, and electronics for firearms, criminal street gang paraphernalia, or illicit drugs. Oh man, so no Fourth Amendment right. That's crazy. All right, and then we have this here, first offender or conditional discharge if designated by the court. The defendant consenting hereto, it is the judgment of the court that no judgment of guilty be imposed at this time, but the further proceedings are deferred, and the defendant is hereby sentenced to confinement at such institution as the commissioner of the State Department of Corrections or the court may direct, with the period of confinement to be computed as provided by law. Upon violation of the terms of probation, upon conviction for any crime during the period of probation, or upon the court's determination that the defendant is or was not eligible for sentencing under the First Offender Act or for conditional discharge, the court may enter an adjudication, gets me every time, of guilt and proceed to sentence the defendant to the maximum sentence as provided by law. He's got to be real careful. Upon fulfillment of the terms of the sentence or upon release of the defendant by the court prior to determination of his sentence, the defendant shall stand discharged of said offenses without court adjudication of guilt and shall be completely exonerated of guilt of said offense charged. The Honorable Brian Steele, attorney at law, represented by employment. And shout out to the court reporter, Miss Taylor in there, signed by the Honorable Paige Reese Whitaker. Wow. What do y'all think about that? I know y'all have a lot to say about this, especially these special conditions. This one right here, 4, 5, and 6. This is going to be tough. I don't know what's going on with number 4. And I didn't hear that. I heard it mentioned when he was taking his plea yesterday, but understanding what a criminal street gang is, and specifically YSL, how are we viewing that? I mean, does he kind of are we in just this massive gray area right now? Because even though Thug's out, the trial is going on, and I don't think there's been a ruling on if YSL is a criminal street gang or not. So is it while the trial's going on and until it's finished and they have a verdict or a mistrial, which is most likely, that Young Thug, he can just go on promoting YSL and it's not a violation of his probation? Or should he just stay away from it and not even bring up YSL, mention YSL, promote YSL? I don't like the way this is written. So I don't know. Y'all will have to let me know what you think's in the comment and in the chat. Is this more of a trap? Is it black and white? Is YSL not a criminal street gang? They are a criminal street gang. It's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward.